Truth is the degree to which something conforms to reality, and something is objectively true when it can be consistently ascertained as true without bias hampered by belief or opinion. So, can we obtain objective truth through religion? I don't think so. Let's talk about why. Hi, I'm Shannon Q. Today I wanted to take a look at the idea that religious doctrine can be a source of any objective truth. One of the religious defenses I find the most frustrating and contradictory is this one. As a point of fact, this is one of the arguments that I couldn't defend to myself when I was in the process of involuntary deconversion. In order to help illustrate, I'm going to share some of the processes I went through when I couldn't reconcile the assumptions required to retain this position anymore. But first, let's have a look at the problems I encountered. To delve into this, there are more than a few assumptions that merit consideration and critical analysis. The first is one that's imperative to the argument's efficacy. In order for the premise that objective truth can be ascertained from religion to be viable, you have to have the presupposition that your religion of choice is true. This seems to go without saying. Of course you'd think it's true. However, this assumption is riddled with flaws that undermine this claim. How can you claim that a religious affiliation that you chose based on subjective preference contains any objective truth inherently? You can point to a myriad of circumstantial evidence and personal testimony to convince somebody of the truth of your chosen faith, but without a doubt, there is no objectively and verifiably true religion. Were that the case, we wouldn't see so many incarnations not only of religions, but also of denominations within any given religion. And this speaks towards my second point, that of the subjectivity of the interpretations of the doctrines themselves. And arguably and verifiably, religious texts of all incarnations are ambiguous and contradictory enough that interpretation of their meaning is a clearly subjective practice. So much so that disagreement is rife, not just between denominations, but also within. So where does the claim to objective truth derive from then? If your religious affiliation is a subjective choice and your doctrine is ambiguous enough to elicit centuries of debate and revision regarding its accurate enactment, how can you derive any truth from it objectively? To reconcile this, I had to ask myself a series of really difficult questions. Knowing that there were facts, inarguable, immutable, undeniable facts that I could use to guide my life and behavior was imperative to me. Of that, I was certain in every conceivable way. I knew what was good not just intrinsically or through learning how to exist in a social society, but via the mandates of God, who had dictated them not just to me, but to everybody else. But how could I be sure? What was I assuming in order to allow this to be the case? God had not in any fashion presented himself to me to dictate truth, so fallible though it may be, I had no first-hand perceptual evidence. I had to acknowledge both the subjectivity of the text and the chance that the religion itself could be wrong. So how could I know? How could I assert my knowledge of objective truth and still be honest with myself? I couldn't. So I had to let it go. I had to make the admission that my claim to objective truth was at worst trust and authority, and at best personal intuition, aligning with things that I identified with within my chosen doctrine, which gave me the illusion of merit in my assertions. I also had to acknowledge that I'd dismissed portions of the text and the belief system that I couldn't reconcile. This was a subjective process. In order to claim objectivity, I had to accept that either all of my chosen doctrine was correct and inspired, or all of it was suspect. I had to assume the infallibility of its authors and translators and trust in human interpretations of its teachings. While all may have value, none are divine, and all were subjective. So how in good faith could I hold my claim of knowing anything that derived from it to be unquestioningly true? I'd had the epiphany that that sense of objectivity was an illusion for me, based on an alignment between what I felt to be intrinsic and inherent fact, solely because it seemed on the surface to be innate and self-explanatory. I had to grapple with the idea that I could want and desire things to be objectively right, but they weren't. Nothing had been revealed to me. A collection of ancient words written by people that in some cases reinforced my position and in others undermined it altogether couldn't be my one source of inherent verifiable truth. Instead, I was forced out of the binding safety of asserting that I held the keys to what was right and true, and into the realm of having to find actual justifications for my positions. Life is complex when you can't wrap yourself in the idea that you know things objectively, and you have to admit that maybe I just don't know right now, or it's complicated. But I couldn't honestly hold on to an assertion of truth I had no basis for, simply because it was easy or comfortable. I hope you can take a close look too, and I'm interested in hearing what happens when you do. I'm going to do this now. So, where does the claim to objective... I objectively can't say the word objective. Stop smiling. Stop being amused at my misery. Script rewrite on the fly. Punctuation is for suckers. Yes! Fucking did that one. Yes! Thank you to everyone who took the time to stop by and watch the video today. Please let me know in the description if you've taken a similar stance on self-assessment and where it led you. Also, thank you to my subscribers for all of your amazing feedback. Today I've launched a Patreon to help support my work and grow the channel. If you would like to contribute, please click the link in the description, and a huge thank you to the patrons who've supported me before we even launched. You were amazing. As always, don't forget, help elevate the discourse.